Welcome back to Wise and Well, and we're talking about wisdom and the wisdom of our gut, heart, and head. And we just talked about the wisdom of our gut to alert us. And now we're going to talk about our heart. And the function of our heart is to align us to what we value. So this heart piece is real important because there is no just one right decision. It all depends on what you value. And it's a wise decision for you if you're making decisions aligned with what you value. But the problem is a lot of people don't know what they value because they've not taken the time to listen to their heart. See, your heart is filled with emotions, and emotions have wisdom. So when something's not right for you, you get a gut alert. But then you have to move into your heart to ask yourself, how do I feel? And a lot of people call this emotional intelligence, but I'm going to go beyond emotional intelligence because emotional intelligence is more about resilience and intuition and all of that. I'm talking about really digging in to listening to the wisdom of your emotions. Being able to understand those in your body, because there's a lot of people who don't even really understand what does sadness feel like. I mean, we know if somebody cries, that might mean that they're sad. It might mean they're happy too. You know, what does anger look like besides that raging anger that we imagine in our mind where someone's screaming and yelling or throwing things and they're out of control? What about anger that is just frustration, irritability? And then fear. We know what fear feels like when we're like so afraid and paralyzed, but what about that little anxiety? That's fear. Anxiety is fear. So that little bubbling up in your stomach, or that feeling of overwhelm, or not feeling enough, which is a form of fear. And what about disappointment? Do you know what that feels like? And what about happiness? I think most of us know what happiness and joy feels like, right? So when we can really understand the contrast of these emotions and put our finger on it and say, I'm feeling this, that is the beginning of wisdom from the heart. But being able to identify, I'm feeling this, we have to get beyond that. Too many people get stuck in, you did this and made me feel this way. That's how we've conditioned our society to be with our feelings. You did this, so I'm hurt. You did this, so I'm angry. You didn't do this, so I'm disappointed. Versus taking a journey inward instead of projecting it out and blaming it on somebody else for how you feel. It's instead saying, this happened, or this didn't happen, and I feel angry. Okay. Anger is an emotion that says something has to change. And I'm going to get curious about that. What has to change? My expectations? Do I have to assert myself in this situation to say my expectations? Or is it the wrong person or situation? See, I have to be able to look at the simple emotion. Number one, identify it. Number two, explore it. What is it trying to tell me? And number three, what am I going to do about it? Which then leads us to the head brain, which we'll talk about later. But again, most of us don't go through those steps of identifying the emotion, exploring the emotion, and what's it trying to tell me I need to do. And that's really being with the wisdom of the emotion. Think of how many times you've said to somebody, you were late, I'm disappointed. You didn't follow through, I'm frustrated. You did or said this, I'm hurt. Instead of looking at when they didn't do this, I felt hurt. Why was I hurt? Oh, I didn't feel respected, or I didn't feel cared for. Okay, what is that telling me? Do I need to change my expectations? Do I need to assert myself and ask for what I need and be more clear? Or do I need to not count on this person and count on somebody else? What do I need to do with that? And then if we take it one step further, we look at, what is it I value? What is this telling me about me that I value? And this really brings it home to who I am. And most of us don't take that journey inward to figure that out, where we can really own it, to say to somebody, you know, I value someone's word. And to me, your word is your honor. And that's a huge value to me. So I try really hard that when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And I tend to hold other people to that standard too. So it's really hard for me when you don't follow through, because it's hard for me to trust, because I see that as honor and trust. That's a conversation and saying, this is what I uphold as a value. And do we have the same value? Because that's important for us to know if we're going to work together, if we're going to be together in any sort of way. And then it allows us to have this authentic conversation to see if we can co-create in a different sort of way. And that raises our level of wisdom. And think how often somebody gets and maybe you too, gets a ping in your gut. You ask yourself how you feel, and you're like, well, I'm really, hurt by that. They didn't follow through. And instead you go into the amygdala part of your brain, the fight flight. You either say, oh, it's not worth it. I'm not going to say anything because I don't want a conflict. Just let it go. And we go to that place too fast before we really explored the wisdom of it all. Or we recognize we're hurt by something, and then we fight over it. We say, you did this to me and I felt hurt, and I want you to change so I don't feel that way. And we miss the opportunity for greater wisdom to say, why did I feel hurt by that? And what do I need to do about that? Is that something I need to shift my perception? Or is it something I need to assert myself in? Or is this just not a person that we align? And could I have a conversation with this person about what I value? What is it that I value here? And once I have the awareness of that, would it be wise to have a conversation with this person about it to see if we are aligned? And this is where I say we do a lot of the work. What's the work? It's the work of understanding the wisdom behind the emotion, and the wisdom of what we value, and then the wisdom of, do we let go, or do we assert ourselves and have a conversation to see if we're aligned? There's a lot of wisdom there. These are the questions we need to ask ourselves to heighten our wisdom so that we know what to do about it. The wisdom to know the truth of the emotions, and the guts to do something about it. So we've talked about the gut to alert us. We've talked about the heart that aligns us. And we're going to talk about the head brain that assimilates all this information to show us the best possibilities for us, given our values that only our heart knows. And I want to say one more thing about the heart. The heart and the gut more so, has all these neurotransmitters, neurons, and hormones, like I said, more than the heart and the head. But the heart has many also. And these are the two unconscious brains. And our heart can feel. We can feel not only our emotional energy, but we can feel the emotional energy of other people. Our gut and our heart work together to do that for us. So say, for example, you go out for dinner. Let's say you're a couple and you go out for dinner with another couple and you're sensing something's off. Your gut is picking up their behaviors different. Normally, maybe they hold hands, maybe they smile at each other, they lean in, they're not doing that. Your heart feels the emotional energy. Are they feeling closed in their heart or are they feeling open in their heart? So we can feel when somebody's closed or when somebody's open because there's a different energy that we get from that. People can feel that with us too. When our heart is closed, it means we're feeling those lower level emotions. Fear, sadness, disappointment, hurt, angry. The heart is closed. We begin to protect. Open heart means we're feeling love, enthusiasm, creative, right? The more open energy, happy kinds of feelings. So our heart begins with that. It's kind of like saying, is it closed or is it open? Okay, so then if it's closed, it's one of these feelings. And if it's open, it's one of these feelings. And then we begin to discern what is it. And that's how we begin to have the wisdom to know the truth and the guts to do something about it. So again, like the gut, the more you pay attention to your emotions, the more you practice naming them, the more you practice wondering what they're about, the more you practice asking yourself, well, then what does this mean I value? The more you can quickly make decisions and trust yourself that you can trust the wisdom of your heart. So practice makes perfect. All right, we're going to talk about the head brain and its wisdom next.